Well, I don't know about you, Andrew, but I feel really moved and proud. 50 lorries like this every month going into Syria, taking food, blankets, tents, heating, all supported, organised by British Muslim charity, supported by British people, mostly Muslims. I feel proud of them.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic, really. And there's 50 lorries taking in flour for 3 million people.
Yep.
And
Every month.
Every month. And fueling over 200 bakeries inside Syria. And then I think there's 750 tents going on this one load in 40 other lorries, lots of blankets, lots of bedding.
And these are all for people who've lost their homes, been moved and
Yeah.
bombed and moved and bombed and lost everything.
Yes,
And
most of them
because
moved at least twice.
They can survive and at least keep warm and at least feed their children.
Yeah, and it's cold here.
Yep.
And as you say, very proud that it's British Muslims, both Human Appeal and Islamic Relief, who are funding all of this operation this time. It's all being funded by British Muslims.
And really our government should put more support through them to get to more people.
Yes, I mean, certainly they've established now that they can do it, and so British taxpayers can have confidence that their money is going directly to those who are most in need. And Britain has always been in the lead on trying to do our bit to help those who are most desperate in the world. And this must be amongst the most desperate people we've seen anywhere in the world since the Second World War.
This is the biggest humanitarian crisis since the Second World War. And as well as this, there must be more effort to protect people from bombing and to stop the war and get a settlement.
Yes, and we've heard very distressing stories this time about Russian air attacks very close to the border here, which isn't very far behind us, and targeting trucks as well.
And schools and hospitals.
Yeah. Clear Russian intervention as well as the regime.
This is desperate, and people have got to be fed and cared for, and they need protecting from the bombing, and we need to make progress on ceasefires.
Yes,
some kind of peace
and safer areas too, where people, this enormous number, 50 families per hour over the last 4 or 5 years have been displaced. A terrible figure, and the cumulative total of misery and people who have been pushed out of their homes and their communities.
And killed, maimed and lost family members. Anyway, this is really good work.
Yeah.
Take
inspiring,
pride. Take
inspiring.
Pride.
Okay, good. I think the Turks have been fantastically generous. They've got 2.2 million refugees from Syria here, of whom 250,000 perhaps are in camps. 350,000 are in camps.
With everything provided.
With everything provided. The rest, of course, are out in the community, thanks to the generosity of local people. But this is a quality of camp that's cost them altogether something like $8 billion since the crisis started.
The truth is, and they're not getting the recognition, they're providing the bulk of support for Syrian refugees. It's cost them a lot of money, and they can't go on doing this unless they get some support from the international community.
And the EU's promised it, but it's not being delivered at the moment.
That's right.
But they've done remarkably well, the Turks, in dealing with this crisis.
Most of the Syrians would like to stay near Syria because they'd like to go home as soon as possible.
Yes.
But they've got to be provided for, otherwise they'll wander across the world trying to find somewhere where they can be safe.
And it'll be the trained and the good people, the people who've got something specific to contribute when the awful fighting is over, who will be gone.
Because they can afford to move and pay the people smugglers and so on. Yeah.
And that's really what the world's got to address now in this pledging conference next week, so that the money goes to where it's really needed to ensure that Syria can rebuild and has the resources to do so once it's over.
And Turkey gets proper support for the enormous contribution it's making.
Yes. That'll do, I think. the extraordinary work that Human Appeal and all of you are doing to help the appalling suffering that is taking place just across the border in Syria. And it is immensely moving to see all the evidence of support that is going across the border in these 90 lorries, and to hear that there will be flour in 50 of them to fuel 200 bakeries and feed 3 million people. It is hard to overstate the benefit that that will have on the people who are suffering, but also it goes in addition with the other stock that is laid out here, the food, the blankets, the tents, and everything else that is making such a difference. So we want to salute today the brave work that all of you are doing in tackling this humanitarian catastrophe, and to thank you and also express such pleasure that the... Oh yes.
أندرو أولا يشكركم على الشغل.
And both Clare Short and I, Clare from the Labour Party, who set up the Department for International Development in London as the Minister responsible for Britain's overseas development effort, and I as the Conservative, one of her successors as the Conservative Development Minister, were both of us incredibly proud of the contribution that British Muslims have made to this, both Islamic Relief and Human Appeal, with whom we are travelling here, and also to all of you who are taking that money and all this equipment and delivering it to people.